Hello friends, and welcome back to Enterprise Architecture. Now behind me you can see the reactor that I've built. If you watched the last episode, we did a little mini episode that showed various options for building nuclear reactors. So I got this one set up here, and it's giving us a decent amount of energy, but we're still not quite able to keep up with our antimatter production. But we've procrastinated enough. We have a couple of minor upgrades to make first thing this episode, and then we are finally going to dive into the Nether quest that I've been putting off for about 2 episodes now. So, with no further ado, let's dive right in. As mentioned, this is the 11 by 11 by 5 reactor that I've built here. You can see we're getting about 32k FE per tick. That's pretty good, but it's still, like I said, a problem for our antimatter production, which is basically eating all of the power in our base right now. Our actual antimatter nuggets, as you can see, it's just taking forever to get this done. So I think I might go ahead and turn this down because we are going to need more power. We are not going to focus on that today. No, what we are going to focus on instead, first off, is to grab up some ultimate miners that I made. That was using the ultimate miner blueprint here. In just a minute, we're going to have all of those that we need. This was real easy. We just had to put 8 of our elite miners in here and 24 ultimate research. And I just grabbed the elite miners we were using for the mining of our various ingredients. Now, the reason why I could do that is because we can use these ultimate miners to make more infinity cells. So I've got more of these infinite ME storage components that we made 2 episodes ago. Again, that's 8 256k ME storage components with the infinity cells blueprint in our research crafter. And now we're going to make all of these remaining ones that we are missing. So first and foremost, we need to make our infinity cobblestone cell. So for instance, if we're going to do a infinite cobblestone cell, we need 1 quintuple compressed cobblestone. That means we need to take 9 of our quadruple compressed cobblestone out here. So that'll give us 1 quintuple compressed cobblestone. Similarly, for our stone, we're going to need quintuple compressed stone, 1 of those, and so forth and so on, all the way down this line here. So first things first, let's make up all of those quintuple compressed blocks. There is our stone. Let's do all of our clay here. This could take a second, so let's go ahead and dump all of our extra ingredients in here. We're just going to take all of this and make as much quadruple compressed clay as we can, and then with what's remaining, we'll make the 1 piece of quintuple. Just like that, we get the credit for that. We can do the same here for our stone. There's that. Then gravel. There's that. And then I think sand is the last one we need. So let's go ahead and grab the sand up. That's quadruple. And then finally quintuple. Perfect. All right, so we have all of those done, and I think we're getting credit for all of those different quest lines. If I remember correctly, we also have the Giga Compressed quest line here that we are going to need to work our way down. But for right now, let's just get these cranked out. There is our Infinity Cobblestone cell. We get credit for that quest here. Next up, we need to make, let's remove that from our list. Let's make up our sand cell. There we go. Let's make up our gravel cell. Perfect. Stone cell. There we go. Clay cell. Oh, we need to go get the extra miners that should have finished processing now. There's that. And now the interesting part is that we need to make a grout cell, and we actually make that with quintuple compressed of each of the others. The compressed sand, the clay, and the gravel. So we might need to go and grab a few more pieces up here, but I can go ahead and drop these infinity cells into this storage array I made just for this. All right, there is our grout cell all done there. Last but not least, we need the infinity creosote oil cell. And I'd already made up an ultimate fluid tank full of creosote oil. We were backing up on that anyway, so that only took a couple of seconds to fill up. And now we have all the creosote oil we could ever want. We can now export this from our system as much as we would like, and we can just make boatloads and boatloads of gravel, stone, whatever. That means in most of the places where we have miners like this, we can actually completely replace them with our infinity cells instead. So in this case, this energized smelter, we actually can put basically right on top of this block here. So let's go ahead and replace this just to give you a proof of concept of how this is going to work for us. You all probably already know, but if not, we're going to grab back up this block here. Give me that smelter. The smelter we're going to just put basically like right here, because then we can power it easily. set up the side config, and this time the top is going to be the input, and we are going to output into this because this is going to be making our glass for us. And you can see that's getting the glass straight in there as soon as space becomes available. And now all we have to do is throw an export bus on top, just like this. Just like this. Okay, good. Now, when we go to this one, we can configure it to export sand, and we grab sand from the list here. Why is sand always hard to find? There we go. Well, first of all, we need power. We forgot to put power on it. It's not going to do anything without power, and we do need to tell this that it can receive power from the back. There we go. All right, so now power is coming in. Sand should also be coming in slowly but surely. Oh, except for that we forgot to put a cable on this. Sand won't come in until you actually connect it up. There we go. Now sand is coming in. You can see that's ticking up just a little bit, and that's all it needs to do is tick up just a little bit because this is at full speed right now, only making glass basically as fast as the sand comes in, if not slightly slower. Also, quick side note here, I did go ahead and automate our crystal assembler as well for all of those common patterns that we're using because this gives us a much faster way of producing some of these things, especially here our entro infused ingot, which before we had been doing a manual process of dumping it into water over there that you may remember. This works a lot quicker for us and easier and more reliably. So that's how that's set up. All right, so back to the main quest line here. We are now moving on to the Nether. So we need to make a couple of things here. First of all, we need to make a fluid injector. The next thing we're going to need to make is a heat protection curio, and that's going to require some liquid nitrogen. We don't have liquid nitrogen production set up yet, but we can do that real quick. And then we can go ahead and make our Nether Portal frame. So let's get started on all of those things. First things first, let's do the fluid injector. I think we can do all of this except for we need to make up some ultimate fluid tanks. So ultimate fluid tank right here. We can make 2 of those. Now, one weird bug right now is every time we're crafting a fluid tank, those immediately fill with hot water. I think it's because we are having way too much hot water be created in the system. So we can just go over to a trash can and dump these back in there, and that'll empty those out. I have not figured out a good way of resolving that. It doesn't seem to be priority related, but maybe I just don't have the priority set right. So we'll need to figure that out at some point, but I'm not going to worry about it today. All right. There is our fluid injector. That's done. Now we need to make ourselves up a single curio. Very, very easy for us. And we need to grab some liquid nitrogen. Now, while we were waiting for the other stuff to craft, I went ahead and set up some automated liquid nitrogen all the way down here in this system. So we should have access to liquid nitrogen now. We will need to take some of that and put it into our fluid injector. And our fluid injector, of course, will need some power, I believe. So let's throw this on here. I'm going to put the curio in that slot, and let's see how much liquid nitrogen do we need? 10 buckets. That's easily resolved. So we'll just throw 10 buckets of this in here. And of course, liquid nitrogen, very safe to have in just a standard iron bucket. Apparently in this pack, at least. I would not do this in the real world, friends. This would be somewhat dangerous. All right. There we go. So liquid nitrogen's coming in there, and it is crafting up our curio. This curio is going to protect us from the heat of the nether. So in this pack, going in the nether is extremely, extremely hot. If you've ever played like Metroid, Super Metroid, it's like, you know, when you don't have the Varia suit and you go into those like Norfair really, really hot fires, immediately you start taking tick damage as far as I understand it. So this should protect us from the heat of the nether. We're going to leave the fluid injector here just in case we need it for anything in the future, or if we need to automate it against some other system that I'm unaware of. I'm sure that we're going to have another use for it at some point. So those are done. Now what we're missing is the actual Ender Portal itself. I believe this is going to be pretty much the same as in vanilla, except for the fact that in this case, we need to make a special Nether Portal frame block here. So we can make those really easily. I already made up all the Ultimate Technique machine frames between episodes here. All we need to do is craft up a bunch more dimensional dust. Let's go ahead and do, I don't know, what do you say? Like 32 dimensional dust. That should be easy. We have plenty of teleportation cores and we can make more. There we go. That's all done here. Now we should be able to make more of these. I'm not sure if this has to be a full-size portal or not, but the smallest size I think you can make another portal is going to be a 2x2. So that would be 8 blocks altogether. I'm going to try this and see if it works. If it doesn't work, well, we might just have a bad day. Let's see if this works for us. Can we make a small portal? No. Okay, so I guess we do need to make this a little bit bigger. Let's go ahead and make up 2 more of those blocks here and see if that works for us. All right, slightly bigger portal. There we go. Now that finally works. Now, before we go in, let us not forget to throw our heat protection curio in the curio slot. And now we can teleport to the Nether. It does occur to me I didn't create any sort of armor for this. All right, here we are in the Nether on the other side of the portal. It looks like we spawned in a very, very dark cave. Let me see here if we can find what we're looking for. I'll also see if I can't brighten this up real quick. All right, there we go. I bumped it up to ultra bright here. Hopefully this will help. And now we are in the Nether, and you know what? The Nether looks a little different than we remember here. So looks like we've got some of our lovely Nether quartz. That's good. But we actually have things we are actively looking here. So let's go ahead and look for some. Oh, well, we have netherrack. That's easy. We know how to get netherrack. We just break the blocks that are all around us here. Great. That gives us that. We will need to make some compressed netherrack in a little bit. We also need to be on the lookout for our various nether woods. Now, the big goal here for us is to make a digital miner that we can put in here. And ideally, we need to power that across the various dimensions and then use that in the nether to be able to get some of our other nether ores that we need. So let's just go adventuring a little bit here. All right, so first up, we found a pile of warped netherwort block. I don't know if that's going to give us credit for the quest that we need. Apparently that is not. We can only accept a wood type here, but it looks like right behind that. Oh, first off, we have nether cinnabar. That's useful, but here is some warped stem, and maybe the warped stem will give us credit for the quest. So let's go ahead and ultimine that real quick. That did complete that quest. Okay, so we've got a bunch of things here. Oh, and even some nether gold. Even better. Great. Okay. So we're grabbing those up. It doesn't look like there's much else to see and do here at the moment. I don't know that we need any of this other stuff necessarily. So based on the quest line here, I think the next thing to do is head back to base, make our compressed netherrack, work on some blank netherrack ore, and then also start working on digital mining all of these various other ingredients. All right, we'll take some of our netherrack here and we'll go ahead and make our compressed netherrack up. We'll just get credit for that quest. There we go, and dump that off straight away. To make our blank netherrack ore, we need to take the compressed netherrack and put it in a dimensional infuser. So let's go ahead and grab up that compressed netherrack that I just dropped, that I should not have dropped, and we should be able to throw it into our dimensional infuser that's just hanging out here. And very rapidly, because we did put a dimensional machine frame in this, we will grab our blank netherrack ore. Great, now we have that. This, of course, can be used in our combiner to make a variety of things like our nether quartz and our nether zinc. Actually, not a variety of things. It looks like that's it. Those are the things that we can make. All right, so we will need to get zinc dust to be able to use that. And then our nether zinc, I guess this we can then use to make our dimensional zinc. That's how we get zinc back out. All right. Now, unfortunately, it looks like all of these other nether ores are basically useless. We have no recipes for them. Maybe, oh yeah, so it does look like we can use nether gold, but the rest of these, the cinnabar, the fluorite, the tin, they have no purpose in this pack. That is, unfortunately, a bit of a shame, but at least we know about it now, and we have them, so I guess they're there. It's there. It's fine. All right. So with those on hand, let's work on that digital miner real quick. Digital miner. Okay, so we add that. I do think this is probably one of the coolest multi-blocks that exists in the Mekanism pack. It is a very, very neat looking thing. For this, we are going to need to make ourselves a personal chest. That is easy. We are going to need to make ourselves 2 energy tablets up, and this is going to make the robot that goes in the middle here. There we go. Let's get started on those. That's done immediately. So there's the robot. I haven't actually played with the robots at all. I think that they're probably, some sort of like little inventory management helper thingy that can do like mining and stuff if I remember correctly. But again, I haven't actually used them. I haven't ever had a real practical purpose for that. Let's go ahead and make up a couple of logistical sorters. For that, we need to make up a few item routers here. Let's see here. We'll do this real quick, and then we can make 4 of these, I think it calls for. And then, of course, we do need to make our upgrade base real quick. We just need 2 of those. Throw all that in here. And now we can make up more logistical sorters. I'm surprised I haven't gotten around to automating that recipe. We use it often enough, but I just manually find myself creating it over and over again. 1 advanced technium machine frame, and now we should have everything that we need here. 1 digital miner. Wonderful. Okay, great. Now we can use this to start actually doing some mining. Oh, and this also allows us This is how we would have gotten the Ultimine blueprint if we hadn't already, cheated earlier in the game to get that. So worth mentioning that's how we did that. So we are going to take our Quantum Entangleporter and let's go ahead and put it down here next to where we put that energized smelter we were tinkering with earlier. Let's go ahead and delete this. We want to create a new setup here, and we're going to call this like Nether Miner. There we go. Do that. Okay, great. So, oops, we need to reconfigure this real quick here. That's done. And then items here. This is going to output all of the items from this block. So let's go ahead and just tell it we output on all sides. And actually what we're going to do here is we're going to put an import bus right on the other side here, right like that. There we go. And so technically, I guess this only needs to output on that side, right? There we go. Now this can output from here. So this will be how we are going to be getting our power into the Nether for our digital miner. This is also how we are going to get our items back out of the Nether into our network on this side. Back here in the Nether, we can throw down our huge digital miner. So here is our digital miner system. And from this, we can throw back down our Quantum Entangleporter. We can select that this needs to be using the Nether Miner setup here. And oh, I am on fire. Uh-oh. Okay, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Okay, I made up a bunch more of our heat protection curios, and we should be good to go now here. For the power side, let's go ahead and output our power into our Nether Miner. Ah, there we go. We just had to tell the Quantum Entangleporter that it needed to actually eject the power. So that's all that needed to happen there. All right, so this we now want to be able to change so that all of this is just input on all sides here, except for, of course, we just unset the power one. Again, this is going to be the output there. Auto eject, great. All right, so this should be getting power. And now we should also be able to bring our items back out of the digital miner here and into the Entangleporter. I believe, is that enough of our logistical transporters to get things all the way routed over here? I think it is. Let's go ahead and just pop this over this way and into here. There we go. That should then be able to pull out, and we just want to configure that real quick, just like this. All right, so we do need to configure this, but there is a maximum amount that apparently we can set it to. So apparently at this point, we are very limited in how we can configure this. It only allows us to use a 10 block radius here. Can we invert this? Maybe that won't work. Okay. So now all we have to do is tell it what it needs to actually be mining. I don't think that we are in a biome that we will be able to get our ancient debris from, but we might be able to get nether zinc or nether ruby. So let's just try that real quick. Let's see here, nether zinc. Let's add a filter for that. Let's grab any of this. This is between -64 and 126. Oh, and there goes my curio again. Hold on, Let's get this figured out. We are once again on fire. All right, I dug ourselves a tunnel all the way over here to some basalt areas. So maybe this will be a good place for our digital miner to find some better resources here. Let's go ahead and get this set up with our Quantum Entangleporter real fast. We will go ahead and check this to see whether or not we can configure this to find ourselves some of our netherite. So in this case, we actually need to follow what the guidebook says here and use Techopolis :netherite_ore tag to be able to find that. So configure new filter tag Techopolis :netherite_ore, and we save that. There we go. There's that. We're going to tell it to, it looks like this doesn't actually let me go any lower than Y level 0. So if I do Y -10, doesn't save it. So we'll go ahead and try this at 126.0, although I don't know if that will work. Let's go ahead and get started here. And it looks like we have 2 netherite scrap already. All right, there we go. This is now mining. It is now, you can see here, we're down to 18 left to mine, and I am now caught on fire and I am out of curios. Oh, well, great, I burned to death. Well, this is going just wonderfully for us, folks. Okay, but the digital miner should continue. I believe that chunk should stay loaded for at least a little while, and that does mean that in theory, we're gonna get our netherite scrap back into our system here. There we go, there's our netherite scrap. That's what we like to see. So let's see here, how much of this are we actually going to be needing? It looks like to make our actual netherite dust, we are going to need 4 to 1. And then for that to then get to the point where we can combine it into ancient debris, it looks like we are going to need 2 to 1 to make ancient debris. Oh, you know what? We should really be silk touching this, shouldn't we? Yeah, that should have been what we were doing the whole along, is actually silk touching this in the first place. We will go and fix that momentarily. All right, so we're back here. I went ahead and set up a couple of upgrades in here. I can only put 2 speed upgrades in here before it burns through all of the power that we can give it, but we do have 8 energy upgrades to kind of counterbalance that a little bit. So we are done with all of our mining, even though I've turned Silk Touch on. Silk Touch is very, very expensive here. All right, so let's go ahead and remove this. All of the blocks, we've got that. Okay, great. So now we can move this over to another location and start our mining again. I also set up a waystone so we can get back and forth real easily without having to run through that narrow corridor. So how are we doing now on our nether scrap? It looks like we've got 24 nether scrap here, 25 in my hand. It doesn't look like Silk Touch actually worked properly, but netherite scrap, that's a decent amount to start making up some other ingredients. All right, we've moved the digital miner a little bit. We do have Silk Touch on this time, and now we have found some ancient debris. We're just gonna hang out for a second and let this finish. And it does look like we do need to still keep removing the speed upgrades here because we cannot keep up. All right, there we go. Hopefully, yeah, Silk Touch is just a big, big problem for this. We kind of need to let it fill all the way up before we turn Silk Touch back on. And of course, our curios are slowly burning up in the time that we are doing this. Alright, so I got real lucky this time. I finally found some nether ruby just kind of sitting here. We are going to try and place down our digital miner and grab that up, as well as any other that might be in the vicinity. Hopefully that will work out for us here pretty quickly. And then the only thing we're missing at this point is nether zinc, which I'm going to continue questing for. Alright, and there is our nether zinc as well. I was unable to get the digital miner to actually mine those up for whatever reason. I don't know why they didn't work, but we found them manually and that's fine. I think most of the rest of this is going to be cinnabar, not actually ruby. So we would be hard pressed to find more ruby, I think, than just the 2 sad blocks that we found. But we keep burning up and dying in here anyway, so I don't know that I'm going to want to spend a lot more time here looking around. Alright, I spent about an hour poking around in the nether, maybe an hour and a half, and it looks like this is all I was able to come up with. The digital miner did me no favors, friends. I want to state for the record, that was effectively useless. It didn't actually help anything. It doesn't go that fast, and you still have to find the blocks anyway, because it doesn't go as far down below Y level 0 as I need it to go to actually mine anything. So as a result, I manually mined all of these. It's a good thing that I had the ultimine turned on, because otherwise it would have taken a way lot longer. I had to make up another basically 16 curios all said and done to not die and burn to death, and I still don't have enough nether sapphire. However, I've spent way too much time on this already, and what do we do, friends, when mod packs are no longer fun? We cheat. That's exactly what we do, yes. Alright, so there are our extra nether sapphire ore pieces, and now we can start dumping each of these into the dimensional infuser to be able to get the dimensional flavor of each ore. Now to turn these into the actual crystallized version, we have to put it in a pressurized reaction chamber with clean quartz slurry, which of course we make with dirty quartz slurry in our chemical washer, and of course that we get from our dimensional quartz ore. So we also need to make up dimensional quartz here. So I think this is 32 for 1 block of dimensional quartz. Yes, it is. Okay, great. That gives us that. And while we're at it, we can go ahead and work on the other versions here, our zinc ore as well. That's going to be the other thing we need. So that should give us all of our various dimensional ore flavors from our nether ingredients here. Alright friends, to make any further progress at this point, I need to go set up a bunch of our dimensional miners and then set up the full processing chain for our quartz, which I can then use to make those other ores that we are processing. That is going to take a really long time, and we're getting really close to the end of this episode, and here in real life, a thunderstorm is about to roll in and it looks pretty serious, so I gotta go do a few things. And so next episode, we will be starting off and be able to dive right into the next set of quest lines. So, for now, thanks again for watching Enterprise Architecture, and we'll see you back here then. Bye, friends!